Welcome back to another episode of Jam Packed. I'm Flora, and today's episode dives deep into a topic that touches every single one of us: data privacy in the age of AI. My guest, Sheila FitzPatrick, is a global authority on privacy laws with experience in more than 160 countries. Long before AI was making headlines, Sheila was already shaping how companies think about data protection. In our conversation, we talk about the difference between privacy, security, and the risks business faces when they rush into AI, and why human dignity has to come first in technology. This episode is a mix of practical wisdom, global perspective, and a reminder that AI isn't just about machines, it's about people. Let's jump in. And there we go. Okay. Hey, Sheila. Thanks so much for being here. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Flora?
Doing well. Happy to be here. Happy to be here. And before we started recording, you said you basically work in 160 different countries.
Well, my expertise is in 160 different countries, the data protection laws. So I go wherever my clients need me. And so I've pretty much been to almost every country in the world, with the exception of a few that I have, you know, no interest in going to and no need to go to.
Oh my gosh. Tell me, like, how did you guys get here?
Well,
How did this come out?
how did it come about? Everybody always says, I want your life. And I go, no, no, no. I just have a long commute compared to everyone else. You
Oh my
still
gosh.
have to work different time zones. So it's kind of an interesting story. I started out in international employment law because I went to Trinity College in Dublin for law school. And you can't really work in the employment space in Europe without getting into the privacy side. And this was like 40 years ago, before anyone cared about privacy. And
Oh,
I fell in love with the privacy side, and I just made it my passion from day one. And at that time, that was well before the EU directive on data protection even came out. That was way before the GDPR, when everyone jumped on the bandwagon and we're all of a sudden experts in data privacy law. It kind of
wow.
cringe because I'm like, yeah, where were you 40 years ago when it was, a constitutional right in most countries? But as we started to see, technology grow and the need to really protect and respect personal data and put ownership back into the hands of the individual, the practice just grew and my knowledge just kept growing and my client base kept, growing rapidly. I've never advertised. I don't even have a website that operates. It's all word of mouth. It's
So
touch wood. I've been very fortunate.
wait, so talk to me like I'm five here. Who are your clients, and like what is this work? You're saying data privacy, but I mean, talk to us. Like, what does a day to day look like for you? Who are your
Sure.
yeah?
So my clients can range anywhere from every industry, and
Okay.
usually they're multinational companies, but they can also be companies that are central or centered in one country, and I would deal with the data protection law in that one specific country. I work with all industries, so it could be financial services, could be healthcare, it could be technology, it could be retail, you name it. It's every industry because every organization collects and processes personal data. And when I say what I do is I work with these organizations to, number one, understand their obligations under the data protection laws that are applicable to them. So, for instance, if you operate in multiple jurisdictions, you need to understand that the laws in most cases now are extraterritorial. So, I'll use Europe as an example. Even though you yourself may be based in Panama, if you're processing, and that can be anything from collecting to viewing to storing to augmenting to destroying personal data, if you're in Panama but you have access to EU data, you have to comply with the European General Data Protection Regulation because it's an extraterritorial law. So I work with companies of all sizes, as I mentioned, in all industries, to understand what those laws are and what their obligations are. And I can be very hands-on. I can build their data privacy programs for them. I act as their external data protection officer. I liaise with the regulators around the world. I build policies and procedures. I assess technology to make sure it's compliant with data protection laws. Obviously, AI is a big issue right now. So,
Yeah.
kind of in a nutshell, that's what I do. And my day can start off at 3 in the morning dealing with Europe. It can, go on till late at night dealing with Asia. It doesn't stop if I'm traveling. I still have to figure out the time frames that if I'm in Europe, then I have to do early morning with Asia and late at night with the US. You just, got to be passionate about what you do.
That makes a little more sense why you knew that Panama didn't do time zones. That's interesting. So, okay, you said you've been in this for, you said 40 years, right?
I started at the age of 5. I like to tell people that.
Wait, okay, that makes sense. I love that. So AI kind of blew up a few years ago, and tell me, like, what has it done for your work? Like, have you had to learn this whole new thing, or is it a lot of what you've already kind of been doing? Like, what does this look like for you?
Yeah, it's a lot of what I've been doing, and certainly as more and more companies are getting into the AI space, a lot of it is learning about their technologies, but it's also working with my clients to understand the privacy risks associated with in deploying, either building or deploying AI, and understanding the ethical and privacy compliance and trust components of using AI. So I'm never going to sit here and say that AI is bad or you can't use it, but there are inherent risks when it comes to the processing of personal data and the impact on individuals. And so educating my clients to understand what those risks are and how to mitigate those risks up front, and where the use of AI is appropriate and where the use of AI is not appropriate. And it's conducting what are called data protection impact assessments. And that's how you identify the risks and then determine how to mitigate them. It's assessing the providers of AI technology and looking at what their privacy profiles look like. And I always tell my clients, if I ask a vendor a privacy question and they give me a security answer, they don't understand privacy. So I'm not going to deal with that client. Yeah, but AI is definitely blown up and everyone's jumping in head first. And there's some pretty serious risks that have to be mitigated. There's biased outcomes, there's identity theft and fraud that's out there. But then there's—
And have you seen this?
I have seen this. I've seen where AI has imitated individuals and actually conned, older people out of their life savings, believing that they're giving their money to someone they know, and it's an AI imitation. So that does happen, and that's not a common case, but it is a case. And so understanding what those risks are up front is critically important so that you can take advantage of the benefits of AI. You don't want to live in a world where you say, I don't want to take advantage of technology. You need to, but you need to be very careful as well.
Yeah. So okay. At Jam Out AI, we work with small business owners, and we really help them expedite and make their sales and marketing more efficient using AI, right? And I share that with you because I am not an AI expert. That is not my role with the agency. My role with the agency is to get to know small business owners, our members, and to really learn how people are using AI. Jam is the founder of the program, and she is a thought leader in AI, and she travels the country teaching people how to use AI. And I am usually about 100 steps behind her with my AI. So people think that I am this AI specialist. I'm really happy with ChatGPT. We've got our little thing going on, and that's, there's a whole other world that I'm not familiar with. So I just want to preface it with, I am not this AI guru by any means, and I'm very interested in how people use it in their day-to-day, in their personal lives and their professional lives, and the different levels and variations of that, right? So you meet some business owners, they're like, yeah, I just started using ChatGPT, right? And then you meet other business owners, and they are over here, vibe coding and doing these incredible things that I wouldn't even know where to begin with, right? So I think it's really interesting to find this balance and to find the kind of this whole spectrum. And I share this with you because when you're talking, I'm thinking to myself, I wonder how many people truly understand what Sheila is talking about, because you're at this whole other level, and your language and your day-to-day is this niche place that I can't imagine you connect with a ton of people on. I mean, other than in your specific field. Am I
Well, I mean, that's a really interesting way to put it. I mean, I'm a technologist by any means, so I'm not out there developing AI by any means.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't want to give the wrong impression either. But I do assess it because I know what it can do. And like I said, there's pretty phenomenal things it can do, but there's also some pretty risky things it can do. I do connect with a lot of people because, when I work with clients, I work at their level. Like, what is their understanding of, first and foremost, privacy laws? Because before we even get into the technology discussion, they need to understand what data privacy is and what it means. And the first thing I say is privacy is not security. So the misnomer that if you have the best security program in the world, you're privacy compliant is absolutely incorrect. You can have phenomenal privacy program and still not be compliant with data protection laws. So it's really understanding the foundation of privacy. It's all about what personal data you're collecting, why you're collecting it, what's your lawful basis for processing, how transparent are you about the use of that data? Did the individual give you consent where it's required to use that data? What is your lawful basis? Do you have a legal obligation to collect that data? How long are you maintaining it? Who has access to it? So we need to go through that foundation of privacy before we can even start looking at the technology, and then what's the impact of that technology going to be on an individual's personal data. So we sort of start at that ground level, and security, as I said, security and privacy aren't the same thing. They're closely aligned, but it doesn't do you any good to have fabulous security if you're collecting data you're not legally allowed to have. If you haven't gone through your privacy compliance program, you're literally locking down data you're not allowed to have. So that foundation of privacy is so critically important.
Wow. And then what are some things that are just like such no-brainers to you that maybe others might not consider? Like, what are things, if you were to have a Sheila FitzPatrick, how to use AI in your business 101, like what would the top three things, like, do not do this, and this, what would those be?
So my first thing I'd look at, what is your objective with the AI? Do you absolutely have to use personal data? And if you don't use personal data. Absolutely, under no circumstances should you ever use sensitive data in an AI environment, because again, you don't know what the outcome is going to be. You don't know if there's going to be a bias outcome. You also don't know if that data is going to be used to train your models. My other absolute must is you must do a data privacy impact assessment before you deploy the AI to determine, what personal data is going to be involved, how's it going to be used, what's your contractual obligations with the vendor. So by that, I mean, how do you ensure that the vendor whose AI technology you're going to use is not going to use your personal data to build their models and train their models? That's critically important. Understanding what the outcome is going to be and making sure that there's always human intervention and human, action. So you can't rely 100% on the outcome of the AI. There must be human intervention and human oversight into what's happening.
Do you sometimes feel like you're living in this like weird sci-fi world where you have to tell people that, like, hey, there has to be a human involved. It can't just be the robots. Like,
I definitely do, especially when I hear people say, "Oh, someday AI is going to take over the world and we won't need employees." And I'm like, yeah, that's not going to happen, because you have to remember, as again, as phenomenal as the AI technology is and the outcomes that it can achieve, and just some of the phenomenal things it can do, we also have to understand that AI, it can't do critical thinking.
yeah.
So you're not going to replace a human with AI, because the AI technology is as good as whatever data is used to build that model. So you're always going to rely on who's ever building that, their input and their information. The AI isn't intuitive. It can't think on your behalf. It can certainly search documents and pull out keywords and summarize documents and develop templates and do all kinds of phenomenal things. But that critical thinking, is important. So you're not going to replace an attorney with AI. They,
Yeah.
you know, they can research the law and they can sort of do a synopsis of what the law is, but they can't do the analysis of the law.
You hope not.
I hope not.
You hope
Well,
not.
I have had situations where I've given clients legal advice, and I had one guy who came back and said, "Yeah, well, AI told me something different because I'm going to go with the AI." And then they got sanctioned. So it's like, well, you don't really want to go with the AI on that one. There's some, some areas where you want to use AI, and there's some areas where you want to think twice about it.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. And then, you hear this term, this idea of like fear a lot with AI, right? People are scared to use it. People are and on a personal level, in your personal experience, as AI continues to evolve, how are you feeling about this evolution of this incredible technology?
So I'm not fearful of it. So that's, to be honest, I'm interested in it, certainly. I'm concerned. I mean, that certainly would be a truthful statement. I'm concerned about the lack of education that people have around the appropriate use of AI. And I am concerned about organizations jumping in head first without really doing their due diligence. And again, I'm talking from a privacy perspective. And
Yeah.
so it's really important that the education is done and there's a clear understanding of what you're trying to achieve. There's transparency. You look at the ethical use, and actually, I'm a global ambassador for the Global Council for Responsible AI. And one of the
Wow.
things that we're doing is we're looking at how to help grow AI globally, but also to make sure that there's standards and guardrails in place and certifications and methodologies that ensure trust, ethics, and transparency in AI.
Do you mind just telling us a little bit more about that organization? Like what does that look like? What are they doing? What are the tangible steps that they're taking to meet those goals?
So it's a fairly new organization that was we took the oath of office in London at the House of Lords in February of this year, and the organization was started by a phenomenal woman by the name of Carmen Marsh, and there's representations from all over the world, and we have what's AI ambassadors who really are global ambassadors that really are there to promote and to help guide the frameworks and guidelines and guardrails and talk openly about the risks, the biases, and also the pros and cons and the ethical use. And there's AI governors that are actually helping to build some technologies and some policies and procedures. And so we work with regulators around the world. We work with organizations that are heavily involved in AI. We work with government entities to not only educate them, but to educate ourselves on what's going on and what we're trying to achieve. But the whole mission is really around promoting the ethical, transparent, and privacy compliant use of AI that puts human dignity first. First and foremost, human dignity always has to be part of the equation. And it's a phenomenal organization, and we're building the foundations now and the framework. So it's sort of in its infancy stage, but we've already, made an impact around the world. There's chapters in every continent around the world.
Oh, wow. I'm just thinking like Sheila might be a superhero. I think what you're doing is I mean, you said it, global, it's what you're doing is significant and going to reach generations. And I just feel so honored to be able to have spent a few minutes chatting with you and getting to know a little sliver of your reality, because I mean, it is kind of a different world than most that I talk with. So like, what a cool opportunity this has been. Thank
Well,
you
thank
very
you.
much.
That's very kind of you. That's very kind of you. I'm very passionate about what I do. I love what I do. I couldn't do
Cool.
all this if I didn't love it.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. Well, here, cheers to another 40 years, right?
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully, in another 40 years, I'll get out of this.
And so, hey, Sheila, thank you so much. Thank you for this. And I know as soon as we get off, I'm gonna have 8 more other questions for you. But if you mentioned you don't do any marketing, you don't even have a website. So is sending someone to like maybe your LinkedIn if they were interested to learn more about you or for their business?
Absolutely.
Okay,
I would
very
love
cool.
that. My PR is all through word of mouth and doing podcasts and doing,
Awesome.
articles and things. So thank you for this opportunity. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. And, a way of you're helping me to advertise my services too by just interviewing me and getting the word out.
Well, you're doing great things. I look forward to continuing to follow each other's journey. Thank you so much, Sheila.
Okay. Take care.
Take care. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Bye-bye.